This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara Schmoisman. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to coffee number 5. And as you know, I'm out and about always, and it's always great to see familiar faces when you're out there. You're not at home, you need to go to a hotel, and you are working. And it's so nice when you walk and say, oh, how are you? And see someone that you can just chill for a little bit. And those are friends that you make along the way. And it's a great thing about being around for a while now that you really get to meet with people. So let me introduce you to David. David is the CEO of PIMS. They're a 3PL company, but they're so much more than that. And I've been learning and experiencing with him. So welcome, David. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, and I second everything you said. It's nice to, when you're on the road and going to all these events, it's nice to see those familiar faces that you just know you can work well with and that you get along with, and you're one of those faces. So I really appreciate that, and we keep running into each other, all these events, the Inacos events, the Beauty Matter events, you name it, Cosmoprof. It's just great to see you and great to be on here as well.
It's all about creating that community of professionals that you respect, and also you know that they will do it right for your clients. I'm a connector, so you are too. And it's great to know that when you have someone and you want to recommend to someone, that they're going to be in good hands. I never got those people who say, I don't recommend people, because you never know what can happen.
Yeah, no, you have to know who you're working with and who you can trust to represent you when you're dealing with the clients, because half the job is doing what you do, and half the job is actually being a preferred partner, not a vendor, but an actual partner, a strategic partner for these clients. They know that you're in the industry. They've got to understand that they can trust that you can get things done for them. You provide solutions. That's what we do.
Absolutely. David, you do something that is super unique, and I had several times to experience. I mean, you do it a little bit different for us in events. You make us create a box experience, which is really, really fun to see what people are coming with. And I'm going to ask you I want to start thinking about this. What was the most creative box that you ever seen that someone made, and the most horrible idea, and why? Because there is a whole production on this. Boxing experiences, there's so many things that to keep in consideration, and think that it could go wrong, they will go wrong.
Yeah. It's funny, before we go into the best and the worst, I don't know if I'll say actually the worst, because they might be listening, and then they'll be involved. But and the best might be a little too raunchy for this because of some of the ones that we've seen where people got really creative. But there is
about the wrong and the right. I mean, there is no wrong and the right, because it depends on
yes.
But
there isn't. It's one of the fun things about the creating an unboxing experience is the fact that you can really start to tell the brand story. A lot of people spend so much time, so much effort, so much money on the production of the product that they sort of forget the last mile delivery. That's what keeps the loyalty of the brand loyalty. That's what gets the customers to come back. So whether you're doing an influencer mailer, which is what our real specialty is, or you're doing e-commerce fulfillment, which is also something that we work with clients on, it's really about getting that box in front of the right person and what their experience, the memorable experience that they have once they receive it. Because it's easy to get a product in somebody's hands and have them say, oh, this is a great product. Let me go back to, Amazon and purchase this, and I'll just purchase whatever. You want to drive them to your website so they can see your entire product. You want them to remember the brand, not just that they bought it somewhere. You want them to go back to your website. You're creating that
I love what you said about the brand story, but there is another part here that is the execution. And many people, they have, and I see it with marketing too. Like, I remember someone like, I have this idea for an ad, and we're going to have this angle with the camera. We're going to see it from an helicopter. Okay, you know that all that costs money, right? So can we execute on budget?
Yeah, it's true. And to go back to the workshop that we always do at these events, one of the fun things about it is for the first time in the exercise, we always say, pretend budgets doesn't matter. There's no limit to your budget, and everybody gets excited because suddenly they can really think outside the box. And we've had fun things where people have created entire vacations around the product, the hero product in the box, with photo shoots and things like that. And I think we even had something where there was a helicopter or something that I think it was at one of the Indicos events that somebody came up with the idea of having a helicopter and they were tossing things out to the crowd below them. So there's some fun stuff when you can lose the challenge of budget in there. When in reality, when you're dealing with it, you have to think of what's going to be most cost effective, but actually get the most bang for the buck, right?
So when you start brainstorming for these ideas, you start thinking of no budget and then you bring it down,
Then
or you start.
Yeah, that's what you do. You sort of narrow it down. Okay, here's the wow that we want to create. Now, how can we do it on this, and we shrink it down to what's actually possible for the brand. And it's always some back and forth trying to figure out what's the most important thing. Do you focus on the packaging? Do you focus on the experience? Where do you spend the time? Where do you spend the money? And we talk about sustainability, and I bring this up because people talk about it all the time, and they think it's only has to do with the packaging, but it actually has to do with what you're sending them in general, not just the box on the outside, not just the packaging materials on the inside, but do you know the person you're sending to? If this is an influencer package, do you know the person? Are you sending them the shades and the product that they are interested in? Or are you just sending them all of your product line because you're hoping that they're going to try everything? So sustainability is, are they going to keep and use the product versus throw it out or hopefully give it to a lot of people?
This boxing experience everyone is familiar with it because we saw it online, but nobody is familiar how you execute that, how you send it. So you say, when as a brand, I come to you and say, hey, David, I want to do a mailer of influencers. First of all, let's debunk some myth. You don't have the list of influencers. The client needs to provide the list.
Yep. Or we have several partners that we work with that can help them curate the list as well.
Second, that's great. How many boxes normally are sent to influencers?
So very good question, very broad answer. There's all sorts of influencers. There's micro, macro, there's major celebrities. So there are some mailers that are called evergreen mailers, which is a brand is trying to just on a monthly basis, they're getting their brand in front of 1,000, 2,000 people at a time. Then there's the ones that really want to focus on specific individuals, and they'll send maybe 20, 50, 100. It does not have to be in the thousands all the time, because what you really want to do is you want to focus on the personalization. That's what we do best, is focus on the personalization. So it's the shade matching when it's beauty products. It's the personalized handwritten note that goes into it. It's the size matching if it's a piece of apparel that's going in there. You want to get the most impact, so you want to personalize it to that individual. You could send it to 1,000 or 1,500 or 100,000 people, but you want to make sure every single person thinks that they're the only one getting it. They feel like they're the only one.
Absolutely. It's all about the
feeling.
And the personalization, totally.
Yeah.
So for a small brand, for example, because there is a basic cost, that is the shipping, it's working with you, that cost, and then you have the cost of product and whatever else you want to put in the box. So what's the basic cost of sending an influencer package?
It's a difficult question to answer. We work with all size brands, all size lists, distribution lists, and all levels of customization. So we really don't like to just throw out a price there, but what we do is we will work with the brand to figure out what their budget is, how they can best spend it, because our goal is not to do one-off projects, right? Our goal is to help them create campaigns, help them create programs moving forward. So we'll try to take a look at overall, what is your marketing budget for this? What do how much does the product cost for you to send this out? Because a lot of brands have difficult times calculating that because it's the non-saleable goods, right? So they're their e-com, their retail, they have a set value for those products, but it's really the manufacturer's value for the product that goes into the marketing side.
This is
We work with the brands to really focus on what can they spend and how can we do the best job for them.
That's such a good item to work with them, because I've seen a lot of brands that they coming to me, and one of the first things I ask you is, what are your margins? A lot of people are not ready to talk to you about exact numbers, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you need to know, as a marketer, and you're a marketer too in another space, that where is the waggling room of what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's almost like taboo to talk about what the margins are and what the actual cost is. But if we're going to do our job right for the client, we sort of have to understand that. And part of the reasoning for that is, if we're going to go and we're going to suggest something that's 3 times the cost of the product itself, well, they better have budgeted that, because they're trying to make a big impact. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for them with the custom packaging. So we might find another solution for them, or what we can do for them. But it's important to understand that information. And part of the reason, I'll just throw this out there, but part of the reason why we even exist in the way that we do is, and you brought it up before, that we're a 3PL. I always joke around, we're the anti-3PL. We got into warehousing because of all the things that the 3PLs couldn't really handle for the non-saleable goods, for the marketing and public relations and social teams. All of our processes, and we have a lot of processes in place, but all of our processes are based on the flexibility and the customization that's needed from marketing teams. So our e-commerce fulfillment, even that area, that all came about because of the good work we were doing with the marketing teams, that when they wanted to go an extra mile and they wanted to figure out a way that they could make their e-commerce fulfillment look a little special too, they said, hey, why don't you call PIMS? So that's how we form.
Something I want to put out there. When you work with someone like David, or you work with someone with me, we're here to help you. And we're here to partner with you. But also, we're not going to judge you. We've seen it all, believe me. We saw the brands that have absolutely no money. I talked to a darling person last week, and she told me that she has money for marketing, $250 a month.
Yeah. That's a lot for some people.
And it's completely fine. I mean, but you cannot work with me at this point, but I can give you some pointers of what to do with your $250. Who knows? Maybe
because that 250 might equal 250,000 someday.
Exactly, and because of those tips that, I mean, I've seen it, and in my life, the most generous people in the industry is what they've been there, done that. They are not afraid to share with you, because they have their experience already.
No, you're 100% correct on that, and you know, some of the most fun projects that we work on and the clients that we have are those that are just getting started, and they have a little bit of budget here, a little bit of budget there, which is why we try to help them when it comes to the marketing side, as well as the retail fulfillment if they're in brick and mortar, as well as the gift with purchase if it's for retail and or e-commerce. We'll try to help them with it all. But you know, it was years ago, I heard somebody also in the industry talk about, they're a 3PL company, and they were talking about the fact that they won't even touch a client unless they can guarantee $250,000 a year or more in fulfillment. And it hit me like a brick. I'm like, how can any brand get started with that kind of stipulation? I mean, we all want those that can pay lots of money and help us elevate our own company at the same time, but nobody's going to be able to have a shot at success if they can't have the right fulfillment partner. So
that's because we are in the same situation. That
we're the same. We're just on opposite ends.
Yes.
But you know, but it's true. I mean, how can you stop somebody from succeeding? And it's by taking away their extensions. I mean, I always say I love the Shark Tank accounts. You know, they're too big for their garages and basements, but too small for a huge Amazon fulfillment center. Let us help you get to that point where we can grow with you.
Okay, I'm the same with marketing. I'm not afraid to take those accounts that they're just starting. Actually, I see it. I love it. I see it as a challenge and to partner together. There are so many people in this industry that they say, oh, I will not do your ads if you don't have a minimum ad spend of $5,000. And I did it over and over again, that maybe they start with 1,000, but because they're making money, then we are at 10,000 soon.
That's right. But I'll also throw this out there, that there are a lot of big companies out there that have the budget, that have the size, but they have lean teams as well. Yeah. And so one of the things that we pride ourselves on is really getting in there with the teams to help them strategize. We have some companies that are very large beauty brands that when they get new employees, they actually call up PIMS and say, hey, can you help us train our people? Because they know the types of questions that we're asking and how we function with them is crucial to their business. So they involve us at that stage as well. And these are some big companies with lots of budgets behind training and getting people up to speed, but they need the help. And it's really because the teams themselves are lean. We can be a part of that team.
Great for companies to realize that they have the team. I always say that a lot of companies are failing to have a too lean team in-house and try to have that lean team to do everything because there is no expertise. So it's so important for brands to recognize that they need to bring the expertise in so they can team. We're here not as a service providers, we're here to partner with you. Someone who's a service provider will come with the lever and say, okay, sayonara, I'm done. And now you do whatever you can.
Yeah. And, one of the challenges a lot of the companies have is also, and this is why we've been really focusing on this for the past couple of years, is building our relationship, our network, as you and I spoke about, building our network so we can offer that solution to these clients so that whether we do it ourselves or not, we know the right person to help them. But we're also building our global network too. So we've been attending some global events. One of the most difficult things that brands have these days is being able to provide consistency throughout the international markets.
It's what I call, well, in your case, is to be able to deliver, but in your case, I call it lost in translation. Like one thing, and this is what I did when I started in distribution, actually, I was working on bringing international movies to the US. And it was really clear to me that if you don't understand what culture laugh about, you can never understand that culture. So you need to understand the core beliefs of that culture and see what will make that customer tick, which could be completely different than other customer.
No, definitely. So there's that. There's the understanding of the local cultures. There's the branding consistencies to make sure that the logo is correctly printed. The delivery is received. It doesn't matter if you're in Australia, if you're in Hong Kong, or if you're in New York City. When something arrives, you know that it's coming from this brand because that's their expectation and that's how we deliver it. And then there's also the ease of managing the process on the client side. They can have their global team here in New York where I am, or they can have their global team elsewhere, and they know that they're making one phone call to their PIMS representative, and they're making sure that it happens wherever in the world it needs to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking about this story. I don't know if you know about this. Japan came up with a brilliant idea for Pepsi. There was this character called the Pepsi Man. That it was like a superhero with a very tight suit, and they have a Pepsi logo. And it was such a failure, not only in Japan, then they tried to bring it to, it never took off.
Why? So, it's, and sometimes when you have, people have brilliant ideas, if they're not executed correctly and or just not accepted where they are, that certain cultures, certain people are not ready for it. It sounds like a great idea, but it just doesn't hit home. Those things happen, right?
How important is for you to be successful, the curation of the list of influencers?
It's very important. It's more important now than it used to be. And I'll tell you, it used to be where anybody just want creators, KOLs, influencers, wherever in the world you are and whatever you want to call them, they when they were first getting started, I still remember when we used to have media lists, and then suddenly there was a blog list, and then suddenly it started changing. And now there's hardly any media on the list. It's really just influencers. And for a while, it was, how many people can we send it out to? Let's just send it to the world. And that's great. And that works for some types of products and still works for some types of products for people now. But influencers are not trusted as much as they used to be since they started becoming paid influencers, right? When it first started, it was all organic growth. It was, what do people really feel? Now it's a quarter of them don't get paid and 3/4 of them get paid something, whether it's from the channels that they're on or the brands themselves. So there's a trust issue in place. So you really need to have that network of influencers that know your brand, that are ambassadors, brand ambassadors, basically, for your brand. They talk passionately about it. It does not look like they're trying to just get every single free product they possibly can, but they really feel passionately about how great your product is. Those are the types of people that that the brands want to have a relationship with. So it's very important. It depends on the program that somebody's doing. They might be trying to reach the masses, but when they're trying to be super focused on the success of a launch or making somebody feel special, they need to know who they're talking to. So it's gotten very important to curate the list properly.
Absolutely. And then you can go into my next question that I had for you, because it changed completely, even changed my perception of how to work with influencers in the last few years, because the perception from the target audience became, oh, I cannot believe this person anymore, because they have paid after paid after paid collaborations. And it's like they believe in every product. They love every product.
Yeah. So I haven't heard it as much lately, but there was a craze a little, about a year ago, or maybe more, maybe less, I don't remember, where it was the de-influencer craze, right? Where everybody was talking about this person's a de-influencer. A de-influencer is just an influencer that's talking about something else instead of the one that you want them to. So they're still influencers, right? It's just, again, understanding who you're sending them to. And a de-influencer is somebody that's on your list that you probably shouldn't have had on your list. They're the ones that are not interested in your product. They're the ones that are, if you're a luxury brand, they're the ones that are specifically trying to find a less expensive version of your product so that they can say, hey, don't spend $350 on this skincare product, spend $15 on this one. But it's all about knowing who you're reaching out to, and for there to be, if you're not paying attention to that, or you just, somebody changes their mind and how they're going to talk about it, or they have a bad experience when they receive the product, that's what creates that negative impact. But that's a influencer that you shouldn't be sending it to.
So you need to do your homework. Like if you have a product that is not vegan, you cannot send it to an influencer that is vegan. You're not going to get anything out of it. They have a bad experience, actually.
Yeah. No, they'll get a bad review, bad experience, and it'll go viral potentially.
Yeah. So you need to be very, very careful. But there's a tricky thing on these influencers, because you're giving them product, they're using them when you're not paying them, when you don't have a contract with them, you don't know what content they're going to come up with. And it's not like, I just recently had an experience that was an face cream and someone used it as an eye cream and talk about it like it was an eye cream. And it's like, no, it's not an eye cream.
Yeah. Well, so I think brands are starting to catch on with that as well. And so they're really in these creating these unboxing experiences in these influencer mailers. They're trying to tell the story for the person too. Make it as easy as possible for the person that's opening this to know exactly what to do and how to do it with the products. We've been talking to some more of the tech and AI type companies in creating something that allows it to be uber personalized, because somebody has access to virtual try-ons before, or testing their skin so they know exactly what products to be able to get. So if they go to attend an event, they can test out the product, they can know exactly what they're going to get, and then we package it beautifully and send it out to somebody. That's, it goes back to the sustainability part, but it goes to sending somebody what they're going to like and still wowing them with the presentation of it. But it's about informing. So you want somebody needs to have a feeling. They need to feel emotional when they receive something, but they also have to know how to use it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's
The
so,
messaging needs to be clear.
and sometimes, let's be honest, people don't want to read. So you need to be creative in the way you
A
explain.
video in the box to show somebody how to do it.
Yes. So how, like now that it's changing this, what percentage you see of these gifts are sent to celebrities, what to pay influencers, and just as a gifting?
It's actually pretty evenly split still. They're just different types of mailers that are going out to people. So you might have more of a luxurious type of gift with with high-end packaging or high-end gift that goes along with the product that's going out to the celebrity, right? So it gets noticed amongst all the other luxury packages that are going to somebody. Then you have the micro-influencer, and they might be getting something that is a little bit more personalized so that they know that they're special, right? They know that they're getting something that nobody else in the world is receiving, and it's because they're fans of the brand. So it really is a nice even split between who's getting it, but it's a matter of what they're getting and curating the deliveries for those individual types of people.
You mentioned before something that I'm super pro for each brand and each one of my clients is talking about brand ambassadors, which I think it was very popular a few years ago, but in my gut feeling is they're coming back. It's something that it's strong. It's an influencer that really loves your brand and they're willing to partner with you.
Yeah.
So how do you see, I mean, what's your thoughts on this and how you create from the product side, from sending them products, how do you keep the brand ambassador excited about the brand?
So I'm glad you asked. It's actually something that we're really excited about, that we recently started partnering with another company that creates brand ambassador programs. So they actually work with brands to create something on their site that allows people to go on and request to become an ambassador of the brand. They're not paid, but what they get, their payment is, the more we talk about it, the more discount we might get at the brand, right?
Yeah, so they get the kickback, a commission.
Well, yeah, something like that if they're selling it on their own shop, if they're doing it.
Yeah.
But the key in the program that we came up with them, which is a huge success so far with the brands that we've implemented it so far with, and we've gotten a lot of interest moving forward as well, is, you can have a bronze tier, a silver tier, a gold tier, a platinum tier, right? But what makes it even more special is, imagine if you're getting, okay, I get a 5% discount, a 10% discount, a 20% discount, and a 50% discount. Imagine that top tier, suddenly you get a gift from the brand that only the platinum people get, right? Nobody else in the world has that special packaging. It almost creates think of travel retail. People go to buy things at airports because they can get it at that airport. They can't get it anywhere else in the world. It's like it becomes a collectible item. So imagine if you're an ambassador and you've talked about the brand, you love this brand so much, you've hit that level. Now you're getting a gift that nobody else in the world, not even the other influencers, are getting. But it's just,
I love that.
So that's the program. So it adds. I mean, then they get on and they're not just talking about the brand because they're getting a discount, but they just got a gift they weren't even expecting. They weren't even expecting.
I love that.
Celebrated that.
What we do in the agency is like every year, at the end of the year, I send little gifts. But you got it? Oh, good. But I
light it up yet because it's in here. But those little pieces of wood that we're gonna light and let things go.
This
I'm
year
not do it on my wooden desk.
This year is Palo Santo.
I love it though.
Every year it's a little token of appreciation, and I think people really. I mean, I've been receiving the most amazing texts and emails of people being really appreciative, and there is something special about in both sides feeling acknowledged and giving to someone. It's nice.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that program that's happening that we have with a few brands right now, and we're in talks about some others for the early next year. But it's such a simple concept. When you say it, you're like, wow, yes, that makes sense. Everybody would like to get gifts. You have to have the right people that can execute it correctly. This is an
About
international brand we're doing it for, so you have to be able to execute it out of APAC and out of Europe, and you have to and out of the US. So that's where we're working with this company to do so. No matter where in the world the ambassador is, they're getting the same beautifully packaged, one of a kind gift that only the platinum people get.
And that's amazing. And that's what it's about, being thoughtful about the gift. It's not even the cost. It's about what unique and what it means to the brand and to the ambassador and the connection that they make between the both of them.
Yeah. Because again, it's all about creating a memorable experience so that when the person sees the product, they think to either go right up to your counter at a brick and mortar store or go right to your website, not necessarily go to all of the other websites that take away from your margins. You want them to remember your brand and remember the experience they had at your website, your store, and you want them to want to tell their friends, and you that's how it's all about an experience that you're going to help them grow and build loyalty.
Let me ask you a question, because this is something that is come to me all the time. How small is a brand to be small to start with a program?
Good question. We've had brands that don't exist yet.
Okay.
So we had a brand that had a concept, and I actually introduced them to an industry friend that could help produce the product from them. They had an idea, they had a formulator, they wanted to work with a company. So they were actually producing the product, and we said, okay, once it's produced, we're ready to go. And they produce 500 pieces of a product. They say, okay, we're taking 50 of the product, and that's going over to marketing. We're going to send some out to some influencers. We're taking 450 of the product, and that's going to be what we're going to send out for e-commerce. So what size? It can be the smallest of brands that have the dreams of being huge brands, and it can be the largest companies out there. We work with them too.
See, your brand is not too small.
5 years.
So your brand could be never small to think big.
Exactly. They need to understand that one of the difficulties is getting a brand to understand the worth of working with the proper fulfillment house, because it's a cost that maybe they didn't account for. Or if it's a small brand that's been doing things like I mentioned before, out of their garage, out of their basement, out of their studio apartment in New York, and they're growing out of space, anything more than a penny is more than they're used to spending. So you have to work with them to understand what they can afford, how they would like to spend their money, and understand what their plan is. Because, okay, if they're going to hand this off to me, well, how are they going to grow the brand? And that's not really something that's up to me, but it's something I like to talk to them about to help talk them through it. Because...
But something really, really important that the brand should talk to someone like you, or when they talk to me, is being realistic. And it happened to me that there are many people that come to me, and I find that they are not there. We're not aligned of what their expectations. This marketing is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So they are not going to see, unless they're in unicorn, which it happens sometimes, but
Sure.
they are not going to see that return of investment immediately. They need to know that this is part of their seeding and their spending to create success at a later time.
That's correct. And you have brands. The worst thing for me to hear is for a brand to say, you're too expensive to work with for a startup. And that's not necessarily the case. It's because we work with the brands, we need to understand what their budgets are and what their goals are and what they're looking to achieve. But what literally, when that happens, what really happened was exactly what you just described. And it's, okay, we're handing this off. There's no real plan of growth and no understanding that what their activities are on the marketing side and on the brand building side is going to take more time than maybe they have the willingness to do or the budget to do.
What are the expectations? So what are the expectations?
Yes. So there's definitely better fits than not sometimes, but we work with brands of all sizes and we try to understand what their growth plan is, so that we can be part of it. And like I said, I don't care if they're the smallest or the largest brand. I want to be able to grow with them, because their goal is to grow.
And there is another thing to be said here. These things that you do or what I do, we don't work in urgency. We don't work in, I need to fill up the last quarter. No, it's not going to do it. We're not going to be like rescuing you from the water of the middle of the ocean It's not going to happen. We are just part of your strategy. They need to be a whole strategy.
So to that, that's the goal. But half the time we end up rescuing as well. And there's solutions that can be done. It could be quicker production. It could be quicker. We try to make it so that if somebody's ready to launch and they're not quite ready, or it's not enough time for us typically around Black Friday. I mean, imagine what happens to a brand if they miss Black Friday and they're ready to launch, but the fulfillment house can't fit them in. So we do everything we can to make it work.
In case we are the same, we try to get you there, but don't dream or have misalignment that this is going to change your business from day to night.
Yeah, no. It's not an overnight thing.
Yes.
You know, and I was thinking back to I was on a panel at one point and we were talking about Amazon fulfillment and selling on Amazon, and somebody was talking about how it's so important to sell on Amazon. I said Amazon is it's almost like the necessary evil, and that's going to get me in trouble saying this on here. But people have to look at Amazon sales as, hey, it might be a lesser margin, but I need to look at this as part of my marketing budget, because Amazon is a huge search engine, right?
Yeah.
So how do we build? On the marketing side, you're going to advertise by selling on Amazon. You're going to advertise by selling in your own site. You're going to send out these influencer mailers. It's really taking all these different aspects and doing it together. It's
like not putting money in Google or Meta ads. It's part of the ecosystem. You need to be where consumer is. And if part of the consumer buys in Amazon, which I believe most of the brands will have a part of their consumers buying in Amazon, you need to be there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's just well-roundedness to it.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much for having coffee with me. I didn't see your coffee, but I assume it's there. And
coffee.
Yeah, PIMS coffee. And thank you so much, you guys, for being another week with us. And I will see you next week with more coffee number 5.
Good. Bye. Thank you.
Find everything you need at laraschmoisman.com or in the episode notes right below. Don't forget to subscribe. It was so good to have you here today.
See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.